you guys just did this live album live at Budokan. I want to touch on that a minute. What was it like playing in that venue, and playing that show for it? Because that's a very big venue over there.
Yeah. I would say it was a kind of a milestone for us because, and it's more an emotional thing. We on this tour, especially, we had played a couple of like really big arenas already, and especially in Latin America, Colombia and Chile and all these countries, we are really successful there, and so, but we kind of. But Budokan is something that, like, if you go into rock history, it leaves a certain mark. And for younger people, I think they couldn't emotionally grab what it's about. But for all of us, I mean, we all know, like, when you go into rock music history, that's something as a teenager you could recognize, that like the biggest names would play at Budokan in Japan, and then suddenly we did it, and it was just like, we couldn't grab what it does to us. It was just amazing. It was like, okay, wow, it's really happening. Because for years it was like, oh, one day maybe we'll be able to play in Budokan. That would be so nice. It's something, but it's some goal you have, and you think like, well, and if it's never happening, that's okay, but when it's happening, suddenly you don't get a grasp of what it means while you're doing it. You realize that afterwards, at least for me, it was that way. And I think for the older guys in the band, it has had even more impact,
Yeah.
because it's such a legendary venue, and that connected to rock and roll history. It's a huge thing, and for us, especially in Japan as well, for a long time we played like bigger clubs in Japan. It's not like what people would think. It's not easy for foreign artists to be successful in Japan. It's not that they're waiting for you. They have their own distinctive scene with really good artists, and the foreign market is like pretty small. It's not a lot of bands make it to Japan, and if you make it even on a club level, that's pretty huge already. That's like, that's something, So, and then ending up playing Budokan is very special. It's like the cherry on the cake, If you can do that as a foreign band, that's something.
Yeah, and the Japanese market, I said this when the single came out, and one of the reasons you have a single that's a kind of tribute to that fan base, regardless of whatever trends have ever gone on in other countries, other places, the Japanese fan base, for me, just witnessing what a lot of bands have gone through over the years, they've always been the most consistent. Like, they've always been there. It doesn't really that group of fans, it doesn't really. You could be in every other country, have this trend where people hate heavy metal or whatnot, and then Japan, you're still able to play shows and people are happy to see you. And I noticed that through the 90s. They were like that in the 80s. It didn't matter. That fan base has been very consistent in supporting bands like Helloween or a lot of other heavy metal bands, for that matter.
I think the difference from the difference in Japanese fans to other fans is, I mean, like in the Western world, we people follow trends, right? I mean, even within the metal scene, you can see that there's like this type of metal genre dope, then people will follow that, and I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just a natural behavior we learned from when we're little. It's like in the Western world, it's really common. There's a trend coming, and then it's kind of, the train is passing by, and you either hop on the train or you lose the trend or whatever.
Yeah.
So and I have the feeling that a lot of people are fans of trends and bands because it's cool. They like it for sure, and I think like a real dedicated fan loves it. It's like totally into it. Makes sense, but in Japan, it's like pure dedication and love. It's on a different level. Just to express that visually, the gifts we receive from Japan are crazy. You know, I like a couple of days ago, a Japanese girl sent me an origami that she made by hand. You know, like origami is like this paper work. You know, and there are so many details in there, and it took a long time for sure. I mean, I don't know how long she would work on there, but it must have been a couple of days. Or the first time I came to Japan on tour, I got a hand-sewn kimono made by a fan, you know, and it was like a tent. It was like huge, and there was like a handwritten letter. I'm guessing you are a giant, and that's why I made it a little bit bigger. So, you know, so there's so much love and dedication, and you can feel that the way they present you gifts, and they come to autograph sessions, and they know every little detail. Also, the Japanese press, you know, they want to know every little detail. It's almost like you have to, not nowadays anymore, but back then when I trained the band, they wanted to know from what second to what second was your guitar solo, and I'm like, I don't know. Can we play the song? You know. So they're so dedicated and specific, and it's I think it's a cultural personality trait they have, you know, that we don't have in the Western world, you know.
I agree.
Not that much.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I buy vintage camera gear from over there, and I deal with people in Japan. I buy it from camera stores there, and like when they send it to you, I'll have this like handwritten thank you note. Though, like I had this one guy, he wrote me a handwritten thank you note, and then wrote it in English and then wrote it in Japanese. I had his wife, literally, she sent me a little origami thing as well, and it was actually, they just do stuff that you wouldn't normally see here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
By the way, we're now entering into the realm of vintage camera gear. I don't know if you know, but I'm a big photography fan, and
of course, that was the first conversation you and I had. By the way, I remember.
Oh
yeah.
So I discovered a new hobby for me while I'm in Japan. You know, and you should really do that if you ever find a way to bring your family and do another holiday experience. Go to Japan and go on vintage lens hunting in like vintage camera stores. I did it the last time. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's really it's something else, you know, because you know I was searching for an old 80s Olympus lens because mine broke on tour, and I wanted to get a new one. So I was in search for vintage stores, and they have tons of them there, and they're sometimes very obvious and sometimes pretty hidden. So I went into this like hidden vintage store. I wouldn't find it at first because I went to the address, and there was like an office building, and there was nothing written on there. And I was like, okay, but it must be here. That's the number. It should be in there. So I went in there, and then I was kind of going with the elevator through different levels, you know, and then everything was like offices closed. You know, you would have those long aisles with closed offices, and then suddenly one guy came out of a door, and I was asking me, here, look, there must be this vintage store, but I don't find it. And then he told me where to go, and I went on another level, and then it was like, don't know, third door on the right, just knock. And so it was like really like pastel colored walls, and like really 70s Japanese, you know. And so I was knocking on the door, and an old guy would open the door, and I would look in like it was like in a weird psychedelic movie, because there are these little doors and side by side, and you would think like, okay, there are little offices, and then this huge room opened up when he opened the door. It was like this huge room full of camera gear stacked on each other and boxes, and it was like a totally mess. But he knew exactly where everything is, and I was asking for a listen. I need to have this like Olympus lens, blah blah blah, from that year, blah. And he was like, "Yeah, no problem." And then he went like through the boxes, and then he found it. He was like, "Yeah, there it is." And it was such a great experience. And if you're into that kind of vintage gear, you should really do a trip. I mean, the whole trip will be fun anyways for your family, but doing something like that is if you like vintage camera gear, it's a nice experience. Even more than ordering stuff. It's like really something you will never forget.
Yeah, I own a lot of vintage Canon gear for the photography work that I do. I have a lot of vintage lenses, and I ended up getting most of them from people in Japan. But I remember talking to one of them on the phone once because there was it was a really weird fisheye lens that I was looking for, a specific one. And he goes, "I don't have it listed, but let me look." In like he goes, "I don't think I have it." And like 3 minutes later, he goes, "Oh yeah, I have one." And it was just it's crazy. And then when they say, "Oh, the lens is in okay shape, it's not great," and then you get it and it looks like it came right out of the box, which is even
yes.
That's how a lot of them are. Yep.
And actually for Western countries, pretty cheap as well. You find like really sought after vintage lenses in a very good shape for a really, really good price. Very reasonable.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to do that. So now that's always on my list. So now that I experienced it, even if I don't need a lens, I will go and hunt for one,
Just to go into the store is fascinating. And they don't have it, and they don't have it like set up the way like you would walk into like a retail store. Everything's like kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. Like everything's like kind of stacked there in these boxes, and not all of them are marked, but somehow they know where everything's at. It's like the weirdest. It's one of the strangest things you can experience.
Yeah, I mean they have some like official stores as well. Like in the streets, you can see them. They're like pretty well set up, of course. Having stuff behind the glass and stuff. But those hidden stores are much more fun.
Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.